How's she going, boys? Mike here. Welcome back to Grampy's Workshop. Today is going to be a little bit different what we're going to do today. It's not going to be a project. It's going to be just a little bit of talking. Now, I don't like to talk a whole lot about telling people what to do or how to do it. So I'm not going to tell you what to do or how to do in this little video. What I'm going to talk about today is generators and how you connect a generator to your house if you have a power outage from the utility. Now, on my site, I like to, joke around a lot, carry on, like try to be a little bit funny. I don't know if that works or not, or if it comes across that way. But anyhow, when we're talking about electricity in your generators and connecting that to the house, that's kind of a serious topic. So, excuse me for a little bit. I'm going to try and be kind of half serious for this discussion. The first thing I'd like to say right up front to cover everything is, if you're interested or thinking about getting a generator to power your home when the utility power goes out, for whatever the reason, there's a safe way to do that, and that's put a transfer switch in your panel, your electrical panel, in your dwelling. An electrical transfer switch, so that when the power goes out, you can plug your generator by way of an extension cord into your house, go into the electrical panel, switch from utility power to generator power, and then run selected circuits in your house to power things that you need, like basic things that you need within your house. Installation of that transfer switch in your house should be done by a qualified electrician, not just by some garage guy sitting around in a shop thinking he knows all about electrics. It's a tricky situation, and it can cause you some major issues. It could cause your house to burn down, and even more importantly perhaps, it could cause trouble for the utility people working on the line when they go to restore power. Because if you're not feeding your generator power to your house correctly, then you could be feeding it right back out to the utility. And the poor linesman, when he comes along trying to work on the power, he thinks the line is dead. He checks it, it's dead. You happen to turn your generator on just as he starts to work on the line. The line's not dead anymore because you're back feeding through your panel out to the utility power. It's an unsafe situation. So don't mess around with electrics. You only get one chance with electrics. Well, you don't even get one chance. Electrics can kill you before you can even realize that you're getting shocked. You can be done. So whenever you're thinking about installing a generator, or if you have a generator now and you're just running extension cords back to your house to power things when the power goes out, it's not a bad idea to put a transfer switch in so that it's nice and neat and tidy and safe when you connect your generator to your house, and then you go throw your transfer switch. But make sure you have a qualified electrician to guide the installation for your transfer switch. Okay? So, now that I've said that, let's talk about what kind of a generator should you use to power your home. Most homes, and okay, another thing I have to say to clarify, I'm no expert. I'm not saying this is exactly the way it should be, or the way it should be, or this is the rules for how to do it. What I'm saying is guidelines, as a guideline, as a very minimum guideline, and a safe guideline, because of my background in electrics and whatnot. I do have, I feel, a good understanding for the safety. So what I do for safety is I make sure that I have circuits in my house that I select to run off my generator that don't draw more than, say, 20 to 25 amps. A generator, most generators that you buy, like your local home hardware store or fix-it store or building supply store or whatever, they have a 120-240 outlet on them that supplies 120 volts or 240 volts, and usually at 30 amps. They have a 110 20 amp outlet on them. They have a 120 volt 20 amp outlet, and they have probably a couple or more of 120 volt AC circuits that supply at 15 amps. So most generators, and I'm generalizing here, would, just to review that, would have a 120-240 at 30 amp circuit, a 120 at 20 amp circuit, and then some other circuits at 120 at 15 amps. So to run your house, the panel in the house has got, most houses these days, I'm going to say all houses, are wired with 220. You have 110 from one side of the service to neutral, and from the other side of the service to neutral, another 110. But from both of those hot leads coming in from the service, it's 220. So you would like, if you're going to buy a generator to power your home, you'd like to get a generator that can supply 240 volts or 220 volts, nominal voltages we're talking. So there's one outlet on your generator, like I say, that's 120 or 240 volts AC at 30 amps. That outlet is the one you would probably use to feed your home because it's a 220 volt source. So if you get a generator, you would locate that outside somewhere. You'd need an extension cord. So the extension cord that you're going to use has to be able to handle up to 30 amps because it's a 220 or a 120 240 volt 30 amp outlet that you're plugging into. So your cable has to handle at least 30 amps. So when you're purchasing your cable, make sure it's sized correctly for that. And also the length of the cable plays an important part too. Like you can't run 120 240 volts on a 30 amp outlet. You can't run that for 500 600 feet and expect to get 120 or 240 volts at 30 amps at the other end of it. You'll get a much lower voltage, which means the current goes up. So you have to be aware of that. So what I would suggest there is when you go to your hardware store to purchase your cable, or if you're asking your licensed qualified electrician, make sure that you size the cable correctly, and the electrician or the hardware store should know what size cable you need for that. Okay, so that's your generator and your cable. You plug it in. The transfer switch in your house. Usually you would get a 3-pole transfer switch that can transfer 30 amps or more, because don't forget you're supplying the service at 30 amps. So you need a switch that can handle 30 amps or more probably. Okay, get a qualified electrician to guide that installation when you put that transfer switch in your panel. In your house now, what do you run off your generator? Years and years and years ago, houses, lots of them were only powered with 30 amps of service, and they ran the whole house. Now, it wasn't run very well. There was minimal circuits. It was kind of unsafe because there was lots of overloaded circuits. But you can power a significant amount of your home's electrical needs with 30 amps of service. So in your home, pick out what you think you need to run. Definite things that you need to have a power go to when the power goes out. Where we're situated here in the country, we have our own water. So one of the first things we want to power is our water pump. Because whenever the power goes out, it always happens, you got to go to the bathroom and flush the toilet. And when you have your own pump, your own well and your own pump, without power, and you flush the toilet, that's the only go you get. You only get one chance, and then you have no water left in the toilet. So one of the most important circuits then would be one that runs the water pump. Another one would be if you have any outside water sources that perhaps could freeze, if it's in the wintertime, perhaps could freeze or are subject to cold and freezing. Lots of those water lines, for example, are protected with heat tape, so it's a good idea to supply electrical power to those because you don't know how long the power is going to be out. It could be out for a day or two or more, right? So you don't want your water lines to freeze up. If you took the time to power your pump to run so you have water when the power goes out, but then the water line freezes, well, that ain't any good, so you don't want to do that. So your water pump and any heat tape or heating sources that you have to protect your water, you need to have those. It's a good idea to have a fridge plugged in. Fridges keep your food from going bad, and like I say, you got to be prepared if your power could be out for 3, 4, 5 or more days, right? You have to be prepared for that. So powering a fridge is a good idea. I don't think it's necessary to power your electric range because when the power's out, you're not going to be cooking a turkey or nothing like that, right? So you don't have to worry about that, but your fridges, good thing. Freezers can last, food in a freezer can last 24 to 48 hours probably. Most freezers are like that. So I don't think it's imperative that you get power to your freezer. Besides, if the power is out for longer than say 48 hours, there's also the 110 outlets on your generator that you can plug your freezer into just to cool them down and cycle. You know, like if you have more than one freezer, you can plug one freezer in for an hour, unplug that. Plug another freezer in for an hour, unplug that. You know, just to cool them off again. It's important too to have some lighting in your house if the power goes out. So pick some strategic lighting, you know, maybe a light in the kitchen, light in the bedroom, light in the bathroom, things like that. And some outlets. When power goes out, it's a good idea to be able to tune into a radio or a television or something like this so you can get updates on what's going on in the outside world, like when you expect the power back. If you're connected to internet, it's a good idea to be able to power your computer or your modems or whatever, excuse me, to maintain that connection with the outside world to find out what's going on. Or if you have, like for a cell phone, for example, a lot of people don't have landlines anymore, they have cell phones, so you can be using your cell phone. You'll need a place to recharge that perhaps if you don't want to go out in your car. Plug your charger in the house. So what you do is you have to pick these circuits, and be careful and be wise about picking them, because the total draw that you have on your service now from these selected circuits that you're going to run only when the power goes out, you don't want those to be much more than, say, 20 amps, maybe even 25 amps if you really want to push the envelope, because the service that's coming to your house now from the generator is only 30 amps, not the 100 or 200 amp service that you're used to. So, you know, with 20 amps of service, you can power a lot of things in your house. Even if you wanted, you might be able to tie in maybe an electric heater if you think that that's a requirement when the power goes out. So, select those circuits carefully, wisely. Make sure that the total draw for those circuits is not going to be more than, say, 20 amps if everything's running at the same time, between 20 25 amps if you're running a 30 amp supply back to your house, which is probably what's going to happen, because as I said so many times, the service that's coming from your generator is going to be 120 to 40 volts at 30 amps. So 30 amps is all you can do. You don't want to run it full out hot at 30 amps, because if anything else happens, you've got no room for flexibility. So, you know, be 60-70% to full load, so around 20, maybe even 25 amps if you want to push the envelope, but 25 amps is getting kind of high, so staying around that 20 amp range. But you'd be surprised what all you can power with the 20 amps. So now, we have a generator. We looked after the cord. The cord's the right size. We have the transfer switch installed by or guided by a licensed qualified electrician in your house, so that when the power goes out, you start your generator, connect the extension cord, turn the circuit breakers on your generator, go in your house, throw the transfer switch to your generator power, and you got some temporary power in your house that you can live on, survive on while the utility power is out. The generator though, what size should we make the generator? Because we're only supplying a 30 amp service, your generator doesn't have to be much more than 5,500, 6,000 watts, 6,500 watts, something like that. Because if you were to do the math, if you had the formulas for AC power and whatnot, and the draws and the currents and da-da-da-da-da, it all boils down that 30 amps is about, roughly speaking, ballpark, is about 6,000 watts. 30 amps, 6,000 watts, okay? So you need a generator that can give you 6,000 watts. So if you're going to go out and buy a generator to power your house, in case you have a power outage, don't buy a 3,500 watt generator that only provides 110 at 30 amps, because 110 won't run a 220 volt water pump, for example, right? You have to go rewire your pump, and you don't want to get into that. You just want to switch over and go back to doing whatever you do when the power goes out. So you want to get a 220 volt, at least 220 volt, 30 amp generator, about 55 to 6,500 watts, and that'll do your service perfect, fine. You don't need these 10,000 watt generators that they sell. Well, 10,000 watts is nice, but you're never going to draw 10,000 watts. You're going to be drawing around 6,000. So, you know, get a 6,500 watt, 55 to 6,500 watt generator, and you'll be golden. When it comes to connecting your generator, wiring it in, like I have said, and I keep repeating this, it's a dangerous thing. You can die doing this, so it's not to be taken lightly. Get a qualified, certified electrician to either do it or guide you or watch you while you're doing it or help you do it or something like that. If you want to get some information about home generator installations, I found a website. It's called Home Generator Installation. There it is, Home Generator Installation. This article was written by an electrical engineer. He knows his stuff, he knows what he's talking about. The website, it's not what you would call a common website, I don't think, but if you search home generator installation on the internet, I'm sure you'll find this article or others just as good or similar to. This one, the website is, the address is http://members.rennin.generator.html. Big address. But like I say, if you search home generator installation, I'm sure you'll find documents similar to this. But the one thing, or one of the things, the highlights of this document that I read through, when I read through it, was it says neutral and ground conductors must be bonded together in one location only. So if you're familiar with your electrical panel, the neutral and the ground are bonded in your electrical panel. Most generators, when you buy them, on the front nameplate or someplace on the generator, it will be stated that the neutral is bonded to ground. So that means if you connect your generator to your dwelling without breaking the bond between the neutral and the ground in your house, then you've got the neutral and the ground grounded in two different places. So neutral and ground conductors must be bonded together in one location only. So that means in your home you should have what they call a 3-pole transfer switch so that it breaks the neutral. So then you switch from your house power to your generator power, you break the neutral and the 2 hot leads and you connect them to the generator. Now your earth and bond, now your ground and bond are grounded in one place only, not 2. So that makes it a lot safer. And the whole business of this grounding and neutral bonding to ground and everything, it's a science all unto itself. And I don't want to get into trying to explain it here because I would not do a good job on it. It's confusing as heck. It's good to understand it, but it would be quite a little job to discuss and describe and explain about neutrals and bonding. It's quite an interesting topic. If you ever have an afternoon and you want to do some reading, I'd suggest you head into the library and look that up. But anyway, get this guide, get a licensed or qualified electrician to guide you along the way and install a transfer switch in your electrical panel in your home so you can switch from utility power to generator power. Another good thing about this transfer switch, I had mentioned at the first of my little talk here, it's dangerous for linemen. If you connect your generator power to your house in ways that I never spoke about here in this little video that I'm doing, there's lots of unsafe ways to connect your generator to your house power. Some of those unsafe ways can provide or supply power back to the utility line. And when the linesmen are out there working on it, you know, it's dangerous for them. They could be electrocuted, and you don't want to do that. So one thing about the transfer switch in your panel, in your home, that transfer switch isolates the utility power where it comes into your house. So that means that your generator is powering the selected circuits in your dwelling, and there's no way that power can get back out to the pole to cause any danger to the linesman. I've called the power company when we've had no power. I've called them and said, listen, our power is out, I got my generator running, when can I expect to have my power back on? First thing they say, how is your generator connected? Or one of the first things they should say, how is your generator connected? Is it just plugged into a dryer outlet or something like this? Because if it's connected that way, you're putting power back out on the line. The linesman won't go near it when it's like that. It's too dangerous. They could get killed. So don't mess with electricity. Don't jury rig something and say, oh geez, I got it running, I did all this job, oh it's slick as shit and I got it running really good. No, don't do that, because that's too dangerous for you, too dangerous for the linesman. Get it done correctly, put a transfer switch in your panel, you don't have any worries that way. Okay, so that's my advice to you today, and I'm not trying to tell you the correct way to do it or what to do. I'm saying this is a guideline on how you should proceed if you're going to connect your generator to your house in a safe, secure manner for you and for the linesman out working on the job. Alright? Not a typical Grampy's Workshop project video, that's for sure, but I think it was an important one, especially this time of year. We're getting into the fall, we're getting into the more power outages perhaps than we have in other times of the year when we go through the winter, more storms. So, you know, be careful when you do that, folks. Stay safe. That's the thing, stay safe. And we'll talk to you.